the format of the night. We're going to start with a panel from these amazing panelists that we've had join us. I'll go down the line. This is Dr. Knighton. He is one of the amazing PR professors here at BYU. And we have Russ Whatcott. He is, do you know Purple Mattress? This is your guy. He had such an instrumental role in that and in creating that. We also have Cleopatra Louise. She is the founder of Beloved Community here in Salt Lake City, and she also works a ton with the local communications and networking government, so she's awesome. We also have Sean Newell, and he is a councilman in the Cottonwood Heights Chamber. I'm so sorry. Yes, he works so much with the Black Chamber of Commerce and that network as well. We also have Robin Hooling, who I'm particularly partial to because this is my aunt. She has worked with Universal, Disney. She just released her new book, People First AI Integration, so be sure to look it up. And then we also have Tamara Baifanua, and she is a 2-time Emmy-winning journalist for KSL News. So we are super excited to hear from them. I will turn it over to Dr. Knighton, and we'll get started with our panel, followed by a short Q&A.
All right, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Does that come through? Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, students, professionals, colleagues, friends. It's good to have you here. Panelists, you have made a sacrifice to come tonight, and we are so grateful for you. If you'd be willing, please begin by each of you briefly telling them a little bit more about who you are, what are you currently up to right now, and what are some of the problems that you're working on trying to solve. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Russ, and go right on down the line.
Is it working? Does it work? Can you hear me? How's that? No?
No.
There it goes.
Nice work. So I'm Russ Whatcott. I came to BYU in '98, studied manufacturing engineering, did my bachelor's and master's here, and then after I left, I got into product development. Worked for a few different companies, developed a few different
Products and technologies. It went. Did it go? All right. I'll just talk loud. So I worked with a couple of different companies, mostly here in Utah, and then started with a company that did technology development up in Alpine. That company, over the years, we developed some manufacturing systems.
I'll hold it very carefully. And in 2015, we brought on an amazing marketing brand PR team, and we took that technology and created Purple Mattress. And so we developed those early products. We did a Kickstarter launch in 2015, and then in 16 we did Goldilocks with I can't remember her name. Mine just went blank.
One of the Studio C gals. And we launched Purple Mattress in 2016, and then from there we started out with like 45 people, and it grew and grew until middle of COVID. We had about 2,500 people, went public, and then about 3 years ago I left, and I've been doing some manufacturing consulting here in Utah
In aerospace, it's back again. Did some stuff in aerospace. I've been trying to help with vertical integration in manufacturing here in Utah. And then right now I'm in the process of setting up a factory to do 3D printer filament in the USA. So kind of all over the place.
Impressive. That is great.
Okay, so my name's Cleopatra, and I as well have kind of been all over the place. I went after college. I started doing sales, and then I took some time off after high school, and then I took some time off to go back to school. Let's see. Nah, yours isn't working. Okay. Hold on. Hello? Hello? Okay, so I took some time off from school and just decided to work. I worked in sales and then went back and continued school. And I decided I wanted to do psychology. Finished up, I went to UVU, not BYU. Finished up school and applied for grad school. I intended to do my clinical PhD in psychology. And then I decided, no, I'm not doing that. And I went back into business. I was doing business development and marketing development for private companies, small businesses, independently. And we focused on either building branding, building marketing out, grassroots, a lot of guerrilla style marketing. And then after a while, I decided to be a glutton for punishment, and I got into nonprofit. What spurred that was after the pandemic, I saw that a lot of small businesses were failing, particularly Black-owned businesses that were failing at a much higher rate. And they didn't really have the ability to access a lot of the resources for recovery and needed a lot more assistance with getting their businesses up to speed, specifically in marketing and business development. And since that was my background, decided to move that into the nonprofit realm and started a nonprofit called Beloved Community. We currently do 3 large-scale events each year. We do Utah Global Entrepreneurship Week, we do Salt Lake Juneteenth celebration, and the Utah Martin Luther King Day celebration. Those events range in anywhere from 200 attendees to 15,000 attendees. And I currently work with different ecosystem building, more so than individual businesses, and working with collaborations and partnerships across the state. And I've also worked in government, in addition to nonprofit, and did a stint at Salt Lake County Economic Development, building out their small business development program.
I'm Sean Newell, and I'm from your enemy school. I was Ryan, I'm from the U. I started out my career actually sweeping floors in a warehouse when I was going to school. We couldn't work, I was on scholarship. And I ended up working for that company for 37 years, ending up being the vice president of business development, working my way through, and I think we'll talk about how we follow those paths. Now, currently, I'm a city councilman for Cottonwood Heights. I serve on approximately 8-9 boards, and I spend most of my time doing community work. I retired 4 years ago, and working in the community was always a passion of mine. I really kind of fell into the political side of things by accident. The Governor Herbert, years ago, had a vacancy coming up on the State Board of Education, and he put me in place on the state board. So I served there on the State Board of Education, and after that, I served on the State Board of Higher Ed, where I had the University of Utah and Davis Tech as my institutions, but I also led out on all the technical institutions for the state of Utah, which there are 8 of them. So for me, I've had a varied path like everybody else here, but I've had some great opportunities, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Hi, my name is Robin Hewling, and Mackenzie is my favorite niece. I literally cried when she was a baby. We dropped her off at a babysitter, just for us to go get our nails done, and I was like, so awesome to see her now running an event. My background, I'm actually from Gainesville, Florida. Go Gators! Little basketball team. And I barely graduated high school. Technically, I graduated on a technical error, but it was the 90s, so it actually was just a clerical error. I failed 12th grade English, and because it was just 1 credit, they were gonna let me walk, and then I'd go to summer school. So the drama with the school with the family was fine. I walked. I, the next Monday, called the school to get my schedule for summer, and they're like, Robin, we have your diploma here. You're not on the summer school schedule. And I was like, I'll be right down. And I drove, you just don't ask questions, you take it and you run. But I also knew that college wasn't my path at the time, but I also didn't want to just be a burnout in Gainesville and live in a college town. So I moved down to Orlando, where I got my first job at Disney World. And I worked at the Contemporary Resort, which is the one that the monorail goes through. And it was super exciting and super fun until the pixie dust wears off. And what's so funny is I usually say, any of you guys remember the 90s? But like most of you weren't even born in the 90s. And your parents were born in the 90s. Planet Hollywood was a big deal, and Planet Hollywood came in Orlando and opened up, and so I moved over to Planet Hollywood, and it was the most exciting time in my early 20s. I traveled the world opening up new Planet Hollywoods all around the world. And then I settled down and decided I should go back to school. That actually is important. And so I went back to school, and my management team went over to Universal Studios, that I love so much. So I went over to the Universal Studios team and helped them open up the City Walk venues, restaurants and bars and nightlife, and then joined their leadership development team. And fell in love with a little thing called DISC behavior theory, which is, if you take an any personality test, it's all based on the DISC communication styles. And I loved it. And then I had a beautiful bald baby daughter, Ella. She had a really big head and no hair. And so I started making her hair bows. And I kept getting stopped on, hey, where'd you get her hair bow? Where'd you get her hair bow? And I was like, I think I might made them. And so I started a little Etsy store selling hair bows, and it turned into an empire, building a whole online boutique, selling hundreds of thousands of hair bows. And I pivoted in 2019, and I was reached out to by a local business here in Utah that they knew that I knew DISC, and Tony Robbins at the time was giving DISC assessments out for free as his buy-in, and this EO group had no idea what their results meant, and I said, I know how to do that. And so I started my own consulting business talking about effective communication and conflict resolution, and it was super exciting. And then COVID hit, and we turned into making face masks. We call it the mask apocalypse. And so we reached out to see if we could do it to get people back on their feet, and it was the worst experience and the greatest experience of my life. And then I had a mental breakdown and played Candy Crush on the couch for about 6 months, and I decided to get back out into the scene and start dabbling back in marketing, and I attended Utah Tech Week. Have any of you guys heard of Utah Tech Week? Okay, that needs to be on your radar if you're in tech or not, because every job is a tech job, and every company has it, and it is the best free resource of tons of classes with marketing, banking, investments, you name it, it's there for Utah Tech Week. And one of my passions was, I did a lot of things wrong in my boutique, and I never asked questions, I never reached out for help, and I want to help others not make the same mistake. I always think like it's the best if you could be the person you needed. And so I really went all in on helping small businesses. I became the president of the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, where I help small businesses, and the chair of Women in Leadership for Silicon Slopes. And I have zero tech background. Remember, I barely graduated high school. I had, a MySpace page, not even a fancy one. That was about it. But I went into a lot of rooms, asked a lot of questions, took a lot of notes, and fell in love with AI a few years ago, and realized that there was this big disconnect with people in tech and people in the real world of what AI was and where it was going, and people were thinking it's overhyped, and if anything, it's actually underhyped. And so with my clients, they weren't talking about it either, so I decided to write a book on people first AI integration, where people come first and the tools come last, and getting companies ready for AI, but more importantly, getting their people ready for AI integration. It's on and on.
Okay, all right. I'm Tamara Baikila, and I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight. I grew up in Taylorsville. I attended Southern Utah University in Cedar City, and I kind of just fell into TV news. Right now, I'm working at KSL. I'm the morning and noon anchor, so my alarm clock goes off at 2:45 a.m. and I'm on the set about 4:25, and we start at 4:30 a.m. So yeah, I wake up pretty early. I'm not really a morning person. Go figure. Yeah, right. It's kind of been a fun journey getting to where I'm at right now. I've been in the business for 20 plus years. I never imagined being in it for so long. I fell in love with journalism, writing, presenting, telling stories when I was at SUU, just from taking the TV production class. So I didn't go the PR route, but communication nonetheless. I've been in small markets from Laughlin, Nevada to Arizona to Vegas, and now I get to be back home here in Utah. So I feel like that's a huge blessing just to be able to tell the stories right in our own backyard. Some of the stories that I'm really interested in sharing has to do with underserved communities. I've done a lot of stories on Indigenous women, Indigenous peoples. I'm Samoan, I have a Pacific Islander background, and so I really try to seek out the stories that have to do with the Pacific Islander community here in Utah, which, as you know, is grown. And I try to branch out and do stories beyond, you know, we have great athletes and they're very strong and tough and, you know, great athletes, great ball players. But I try to do my best to represent the other aspects of what makes our culture so great. And we have very loving, caring, very smart individuals. And so in the newsroom, being, you know, very few in number as far as Pacific Islanders, I do my best to seek out those stories. And it's something I really value. I guess you asked the question, what is the current problem that I'm working on right now? And I'd have to say in the whole industry of news broadcast journalism would be keeping our audience. You know, not a lot of people are, you know, sitting down at 6 o'clock to watch the news. They have their smartphones or cell phones. They're watching it on, you know, YouTube and social media. So I've really had to pivot, I'd say within the last couple of years, trying to be more present on social media, trying to, you know, gain young followers. I have a daughter who's 21 years old, and, you know, she gets a lot of her news from TikTok and those types of outlets. So that's my current situation right now, where I love what I do, I love the storytelling, but I need to meet the audiences where they're at. And so it's a whole new world, and Robin talked about AI, and so I'm trying to integrate that as well. And so it's great being here with college students like yourself, just to kind of learn and see where you guys are at and how I can better present my message so that the stories get out there.
Wow, what impressive backgrounds all of you have. And clearly, each of you has hit some points of success. But yet it doesn't always sound like these lines, these journeys were linear, with just one success after another. There were pivots we heard about. There was moments of mental breakdown and Candy Crush saving the day, right? There's ideas of retirement, but 9 boards to go work on. Maybe you're gonna need a purple mattress to rest on. So help the students and everybody here today understand, in your journeys, help unpack the drama a little bit. Like, how did you find success in these moments of uncertainty, or when you felt beaten down or difficult? How did you get to a place of success? How did you be resilient?
I'll go to that. Get me out of the way. A lot of it came from my upbringing. I was part of the second class of students in 1967 to desegregate our school system in Southern California. And my parents were part of the groups that led that effort for us to be able to go to better schools and have better schools for our community. So I was actually literally bused across a bridge called Victoria Bridge to a predominantly the most affluent white schools in our community. And one of the things that my father always told me is, you've got to work 10 times harder than anybody else around you. And he hammered that into my head every single day. And a lot of times I didn't really think about it, because I had one goal in mind, and I was gonna be this great football player. I was gonna play in the NFL, and that was gonna be my ticket. Fortunately, I got my chance in the NFL, but NFL stands for not for long. And I was injured my first year, and I saw my career was coming to an end, so I had to pivot. And I've learned that in life, that we have to continually pivot. The pathway that we take is not always straight. And we have to build those tools along the way that allow us, when we pivot, to be able to have some strengths and pillars of strength that we can actually grab hold of. So all throughout my life, I've always tried to build these pillars of strength, either through education or through knowledge. But one of the greatest things that I've always made myself do, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, is I've reached out to people that most people won't reach out to. even people in enormous positions like our governors or presidents. And I'd ask them for advice, and I'd ask them where they came from, and I'd ask for help. And 9 times out of 10, they would engage me. And they helped me to design the pathway that I wanted to follow. And it just made it easy for me to be able to know that there were others out there that had some struggles, and I learned from them about their struggles as well. And I could build upon the strengths that I had, knowing that I didn't have to make the same mistakes they did. They helped me clear that path to the direction I wanted to go. And I still do that to this day. I will walk up to folks that after they've spoken, like at an event, something like this, and I'll start talking to them, and they're kind of like, well, what's this dude? Why are you gonna ask me those questions? I go, I have 5 minutes to talk to you, and I'm gonna give it all to you. And like I said before, most times they'll engage you and they'll help you, and that's where you learn. You learn from others. We don't get everything from the classroom. We don't get everything from our parents. We don't get everything from our peers. We have to reach out and network and talk to people that we never ever would, in our regular lives, would be brave enough to do. But we have to find that courage to be able to touch people, because people want to be touched, and they'll touch you in different ways. And communication is one of the best ways to engage people and to learn.
So one thought that I've had is, one of my mentors years ago used to tell us that we could set a 2-minute sand timer, and it doesn't really work. But the concept is, there are things that are hard. There are things that are tough, and it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to just get into those. But you've got to set some boundaries. And over and over again, when I was finishing my master's degree, I had an informal acceptance to go to Cambridge to do my PhD. We had a bunch of things ready to go, lined up, and the last thing that I had to figure out was the financing. I grew up in a small town in Arizona. My parents were pretty broke. I've got 8 siblings. The money wasn't coming from that direction. And so I had tried to pursue multiple different paths to try and find the money to be able to cover so that I could go do a PhD. And I got to the point where it wasn't gonna happen. And that was tough. I had some high expectations, some high hopes of what could have happened, and it just wasn't gonna happen. And so I had a couple of conversations with some friends within that, and within about a week, I had three really good job interviews, like really good job interviews. And one of those turned into the product development job that I ended up taking in Alpine that rotated into a big portion of my career. I could have, the more, and there have been a lot of times that I've needed to sit and play Candy Crush. And sometimes that's the right answer. And sometimes if you can get past that, and as you can work through that, and we're all in different places, but the more we can step into the next phase, that's when that next thing is ready to hit you. And so when you're ready for it and you step into that next thing, then that's where you're able to find that miracle that's gonna bless your life.
So you talk about success and, you know, how do you reach success in anybody's career, but for me, there's not one really defining moment. It's just like a lot of small moments that have kind of led to where I'm at right now. I'd have to say, just sitting in your shoes when I was going to college, and I knew I wanted to major in communications, and then once I figured out that, you know, broadcast journalism is where I wanted to go, I got my first job in Laughlin, Nevada as a one-man band, what they called it back then, which is basically like multimedia journalist now. So being away from family, being out in the desert, lugging a camera around, asking questions, and just trying to figure out this new role and, you know, how do I get better? And it was really just about asking questions and just being curious about the world around you, asking people questions about themselves, becoming a mini expert. So that's why I love this job, is because that's what I get to do every day. I get to hear other people's stories, I get to share them. And I think what makes any journalist successful is just being able to gain the trust of the people that have stories to share. It's showing up and just being consistent. You don't always this is a career where it can be pretty brutal, it's very competitive, there are not a lot of positions for the number of people who are interested in TV news, and so you really do have to set yourself apart. And early on, I remember thinking, oh, I have to conform to, you know, what is a TV news anchor? What do they look like? What do they sound like? Their name. My last name Baifanua is actually my maiden name. My married name is Lee, and so through my career, I kept Tamara Lee, and when I got the opportunity to come back to Salt Lake City and work here, I thought, you know, I want to pay tribute to my father, Baifanua, last name Baifanua, and so for me, that was defining who I really was, and I think that was just going through the years of becoming a journalist and figuring out I don't need to conform to a certain way. I can be myself. I can step into who I am, step into my culture, because that's what makes me a unique journalist. So I would just say, if you're trying to figure out success in your career or what path you want to go on, I say it's showing up, being consistent, and when things aren't going your way, you know, I've been passed up for job promotions, you know, I've been told no when I've asked for a pay increase or a new contract. And I could have easily folded and, you know, blamed everybody, but I really love the work, and I thought to myself, you know, I'm gonna grow from this. I'm gonna work hard, I'm going to figure out, you know, what I can do better, and I'm just gonna stick with it. And I feel that has served me well throughout my career, because about 5 years ago, I left one station here in Salt Lake where I had been for about 11 and a half years. And it was coming to the end of my contract, and they weren't really budging. They didn't really have any other opportunities for me to advance or excel. So I thought, well, I think this is my exit strategy. I think I probably just need to get out of TV news. And literally at the last 2 weeks of my contract, I had a friend who worked at KSL, and she's like, let me just find out, let me just ask my news director if there's a position that might be open. And fortunately there was, and that was my sign. Well, I think I still got a few, you know, I've got a few more years left, and so I guess you could kind of call that a pivot, even though I was just moving across the street. But for me, it was a mind shift, a mindset shift for me, knowing that I still want to be in the business. I care about this business. I've grown so much. I've been able to take on different assignments at KSL. I was fortunate to cover the Paris Olympics in 2024. I was blessed to travel to Maui after the wildfires in 2023 and do a documentary that was aired during General Conference, where I got to talk to some of the people that lost their homes, the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that really just bonded together and helped one another out. So that to me is just another example of just me staying consistent and just really knowing at this stage of my career, all that hard work and the pivots that I had to do was a payoff, because I still enjoy what I do and I love it every day because I get to hear people's stories.
Okay,
No, go girl, go.
You're welcome to sing a duet.
that's nice. Okay, so I think that what would sum up the question of like where has guided me towards success, I think it's two things: flexibility and audacity. And I'll go into flexibility first. I think, as you've noticed, each of the people that are on the panel here have said that they have had different transitions within their careers, they've pivoted within their careers, and they've remained open to new opportunities. And I think that that openness allows you to be able to take a moment and say, okay, the space that I'm in right now may not be the space that I'm going to be in forever, and open to seeing where your career might take you. As I mentioned, when I had first gone back to school, I'd come out of sales and gone into psychology. I thought that that was where my career was going to take me. And then I thought it was going to be in business consulting, and here I am in government and nonprofit. And that's because of being open to different opportunities and being open to even the network that we have of who it is that's surrounded, who's going to give us opportunities, who's suggesting us, whether for roles in government. I've been in positions where I served on the governor's office of Black Affairs as in the advisory council for the governor for both Herbert and Governor Huntsman. And that was because somebody in my network suggested, hey, I think you'd be good for this. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I was open to that suggestion and then was able to have that opportunity. The second one being audacity, in that I don't think that everyone has access to every space at all times. And sometimes you're going to be approaching a space that you don't necessarily have an inherent access to. My family are immigrants from the island of Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm a first generation US born citizen. And that comes with different challenges and struggles of knowing how to access the system here, knowing how to be able to navigate the resources that are available. But there's, for the most part, especially being in Utah, there's not a lot of people that look like me. We have a less than 2% population. So there are inherent access barriers that I face. And the audacity that I have comes in that if there's a barrier, I inherently say, I don't care, I'm going to have access to that.
And see how others can help you. And serving others along the way is your best tool. Is how can you serve the community? How can you volunteer and be on boards? That was one of the best ways that me building my network, is being able to volunteer for people in spaces that I loved, and being able to network with other people that share the same passion.
Wow, I feel like we could continue to talk for another 30 minutes. They have such great insight, and you know, you hear at first about the success, and then you open up and hear your resilience. We hear about your hard work and the ability to be yourself and own your own story. And yet throughout all of you, you've been able to have this success by getting the access and creating access by being willing to talk to people. So this event tonight is being brought to us by Access Newswire, which helps allow students, professionals, and others to access people in the media, social media, news media, journalists. And so why don't we talk for just a little bit about how important is it to be networked on social media, to talk with those in the media. Tamara, you might be able to start with us as a journalist yourself. You know, what works when people want to try to have a conversation with you, even if they're not PR, they're entrepreneurial or something else?
Oh, well, Robin touched on it. LinkedIn is a really great resource. I've been able to tap into people from different backgrounds where I actually think that they would be great candidates to come on and talk on our newscast, and just to learn a little bit more. I mean, different industries from tech, healthcare, entrepreneurship. It's such a driving force. LinkedIn is like a really good way to get dialed in if you are networking. As far as the different types of platforms that maybe you're using to reach an audience as well, is just kind of understanding your audience. So for journalists, I get emails, a lot of emails every day from PR folks, PR firms, and they're pitching ideas. They're pitching, an author who just wrote a book about AI, or they're pitching. I already found my next interview here. They are, you have to have that relationship as a PR person with journalists, and kind of understand where journalists are coming from as far as like what our day is like, and the amount of emails that we get and the amount of pitches that we get. And we don't read every single email like we probably should because of time, and we're just trying to find the most interesting, compelling things that we think our audience and our viewers are going to want to hear. So anytime that you can meet in person, we have a lot of people that will come, they'll email or call and they'll say, hey, can we drop by for a visit? We just want to let you know what we do, maybe how we could be a resource. For example, Utah State University visited with us a few months back and just talking to us about the different professors they have on hand and how we can use them as experts. And so that really goes a long way too, just having that face-to-face interaction. As a reporter, we do what's called beat checks, where we really just try to gauge what the community, what their needs are, like contacting police, contacting different agencies, public agencies, just to ensure that they know that we are actually invested in what they're doing. Right now, we're covering the Utah legislature, so we do our best to make sure that we get in different communities, get before different leaders so that we kind of develop this relationship and they know that they can trust us with the information that they want to get out to the public. So yes, we talk about social media and how you have to be really dialed into LinkedIn and that, but personal contact, it goes a long way. And I'm guilty of it too. I will text a lot of my contacts, but I should be doing a little bit more of the actual, like picking up the phone and calling or meeting in person. I really feel like, you know, Robin talked about like putting yourself out there and being, you know, just making yourself a little bit different, and that face-to-face contact is gonna go a long way.
Yeah, and be other people's hype man, you know, like if you see they're doing things on social media, hype them up and be a part of it. Everybody reads comments on LinkedIn. Even if they have 100 comments, those people are reading comments. So your name coming up as somebody who actually is supporting them and cheering them on is valuable to them. And so you're already building a connection. If you're not active on social media, start now. Think of it as like planting seeds, because once you're ready to start on your career path, once you're ready to get out there, when somebody Googles you, when somebody goes into what are they gonna see? What kind of experience, or commenting on other people's, or just reposting and giving your insights on it. Building it now is what's gonna take you further in the future, and how you can support them. Building a community is all about what you can give. It's never transactional, and that is the best way to build an authentic network, and one that is gonna pay off, whether it's for a career or not. It will pay off on a personal basis.
I'll say when it comes to social media, be careful. Especially when you're young people, don't put something out there that you don't want everybody to know about. It's a great tool. LinkedIn, as was mentioned, is a wonderful tool. I think I have close to 22,000 connections on LinkedIn, and it's a lot of them are the people that I know. One of the funny things when I saw the panel here today, I just met these two gentlemen this evening, but I know Cleopatra, I know Robin, and I follow her on social media. So it's a small world, as they say in Disney. So be careful when you're utilizing social media, but it is a great tool. It's a great tool to market yourself and develop a brand around yourself that you can actually push out to folks that you want to be paying attention to the work that you're doing. And when doing that though, have a consciousness about the direction that the language you use goes in when you're having those conversations. Do not banter back and forth with people and argue on social media, because those things blow up in your face in a heartbeat. Try to be as positive as you can. Try to be as engaging as you can with the people that you're engaging with on social media. The Instagram and Facebook, those are supposed to be fun things. They're not supposed to be weaponized. And they will be weaponized if you put the wrong information out there. So be really careful with it. But it's a great way, social media is a great way to brand yourself and to develop an understanding for folks that don't really know you about some of the things you are or some of the things you do. And it is a positive tool. And I would suggest that you practice at it first. Don't just go in and go willy-nilly and not have a plan, but practice at it so you don't make those mistakes that come back to bite you.
Okay, so as opposed to everyone here on the panel, I don't have a social media presence, a personal social media presence. So where Sean has 22,000 people on LinkedIn, I barely have 200 people. And I probably only started using it within the last year, really, because I keep getting yelled at.
That's very frustrating. I would tag you.
Yes, exactly. People cannot tag me, and I think that's probably the main reason, because they can't tag me on posts. But I do think it's important to understand it. So even though I do not have a personal social media presence, I do clearly understand it. I run several brands off of social media within the nonprofit. Beloved Community is the nonprofit organization. We have a social media. Don't go there. It's not that active. However, Salt Lake Juneteenth is one of our larger events. We get 10 to 15,000 people that attend that each year, all without me having to have a personal social media. So what does that entail? That entails an understanding of how you market your business on social media, and it also entails an understanding how you navigate your personal network connections. Because although I am not constantly on social media, my network is is something that like I am reaching out to constantly. So I have people might come up to me at a networking event such as this, and they'll be like, oh, can I connect with you on Instagram? I said, no, I don't have an Instagram. They're like, oh, can I connect with you on LinkedIn? I say, yeah, but you probably won't get a response from me. And then they'll say, well, then how do I connect with you? I said, oh, you can have my phone number. So I then have probably way too many phone numbers in my contact list, but it means that I can then reach out. Like for instance, when Rob and I asked to speak on a panel for Global Entrepreneurship Week, and I called her and I was like, hey, I'm doing an event, can you speak on it? And I curate those connections, and I make sure that I'm having authentic communities that I'm building. And building that community, whether it is on social media or it is off of social media, is important around what it is that you have an interest in and what it is that you are trying to actually cultivate yourself. Whether that's a community, I do a lot of nonprofit, I do a lot of business development, so whether that community is specific to around that, or whether that community is specific to the career path that you're going on, marketing, communications, PR, looking at how you can network and curate your community around those things is really important. And I think that even if you're not utilizing your own personal social media to be able to navigate as a tool for connecting to people, it is still important to know how that plays into a marketing standpoint. As I mentioned, each year we have over 10,000 people attend just one of the events that I host. So I understand how to navigate social media in order to effectively get information out to the community. I don't just use social media, we also have relationships across the board with news media. Tamara and I have done interviews for KSL. I do press releases out to all of the major media companies as well as the non-major ones to get that picked up, so that the information that I'm sharing about community, whether that's an event or whether that's a new challenge that community is facing, is being able to be shared across the board. So understanding how the communication strategies play into it, and developing a marketing strategy that is multifaceted and doesn't just rely on one of those pieces, but that really is going to be reliant on your network that you're building, because then you can then reach out to people who are in news or who may be in marketing and be able to utilize that to build your strategy.
I love all of that. That's fantastic. I remember years ago, I've got two little brothers. When the older one was 6 and the younger one was 4, they were walking around the house and they found a hammer. And they smashed all of the vents on the crawl space closed, and they broke some windows, and they did some 6 and 4-year-old things. I completely agree. Social media is a tool, and if you pick it up and you start smashing things, it can affect your career, it can affect your life, it can do all kinds of things. Or you can use the right tool at the right time. If all you have is a hammer, every problem is going to look like a nail. And so you need to look at all of the different aspects of social media. I love what Patrick was saying. You can decide how you're going to be involved in it. When I got home from Argentina, I loved Spanish. I still love Spanish. But I got here to BYU and I was going to be a Spanish translation major. And I was gonna be amazing, and I was gonna probably make about $32,000 a year,
which is not a great plan if you're gonna get college debt. And so it didn't take me very long before I switched over to engineering. But shortly after I did that, one of my professors, he gave it wasn't a devotional talk, it was a forum or something, but it's on the BYU speeches page. And his title was Why Engineers Should Read Shakespeare. And it goes to why all of you have amazing tools that some engineers, most engineers, don't have. You have the ability to communicate. And so if it's Spanish to English, if it's nerd to regular people, whatever it is that you are able to communicate, you can use some of these amazing tools, and you're able to go in and help. It can be a business-to-business conversation. It can be, there are so many different cultural conversations. There are so many different ways that you as a communications person can help bridge some of those gaps that get created in normal life. Sometimes we're using the exact same words, but we don't mean the exact same things. And so being able to pick up on those cues, whether it's online, whether it's in person, however it is. And that's one of the huge benefits. A lot of people text, and I've seen a lot of people get offended because there was a text that it came through too strong or not strong enough, where a lot of times in person or over the phone, excuse me, I don't talk much. I'm an introverted nerd, so using my voice this much is unusual for me. But you have some amazing tools that you're able to bridge some of those gaps. And as you do that, you can make progress in ways. So much of frustration and so much of the chaos comes because we don't understand each other. And we're not speaking the same language, and we're not opening our hearts and talking to people. One of the big problems that we had early on with Purple, somebody got on Reddit and started talking about there's this white powder on your beds and it's gonna kill us all, and it blew up. And one of the teams at Purple handled it completely wrong. And so there was a small group that went in and they did a really good job at communicating really well. And they collaborated with some deep diggers on Reddit, and they were able to overcome a lot of things. That alone could have killed the whole entire company, and it was within the first year. There are things that you can do with all these different tools to help avoid some of those problems and those crises.
Amazing. Well, BYU community, you're great at communicating, so show how good you are at communicating by giving them a big round of applause. Thank you so much. We turn the time back to you guys.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Oh, I'll hold it just for fun, even if it doesn't work. Before I get into my little note cards, our campaign, we thought of the little tagline or slogan, "No Flying Blind." We thought it big. We want us students, we want professionals and professors to feel confident wherever they may be. And I feel like this panel was amazing. You guys gave such great feedback for us. And like, I feel more confident now, and I feel like I'm not gonna be flying blind. So I thank you so much for all of your guys' comments. I'd like to introduce my team behind this campaign. So when I call your name, please raise your hand. We have Ileana Rodriguez as our team lead. Measurement and evaluation specialist. As outreach coordinator. David Jorgensen as designer. Tucker as writer. Summer Mahowski, myself as researcher. So a little bit about us. For the past 5 months, we've been working on this national campaign with Access Newswire. And Dr. Knight gave a great little blurb about Access. But they're a global press release distribution and communications platform that helps organizations, startups, and professionals share their news, build credibility, and reach the right audiences. And right now, one of their key initiatives is their free educational program that we're trying to spread awareness about. It's giving us students the same hands-on experience with tools that professionals use in the industry. And we are just so very grateful for Access for this opportunity that has given us to bring this panel to life and to hear career advice and the importance of building connections. Events like this and tools like Access Newswire help students, professors, and professionals gain clarity and confidence and experience so no one is flying blind. So now we want to invite everyone, fill up your drinks, go grab some snacks, let's chat, let's network, and have a great rest of our evening. Thank you all for coming out.